Have you ever thought to yourself, wow, I wish there was a version of Omegaverse with more cannibalism and cake? Well, you're in luck today, buddy! Let me introduce y'all to something called the Cakeverse, aka Omegaverse's gory, frosting-filled cousin. I mean, like actual frosting, not like, you know. Cakeverse first came about in 2016 and gained something of a cult following over the past few years because every now and again, it'll blow up on social media and go viral because people are like, what the f*** is this? If you're well acquainted with Omegaverse and the hierarchy structure present in that world building, then you're already ahead of the curve, but if you need a refresher or you're not familiar with Omegaverse and you don't want to watch my 45-minute guide on the topic, I don't blame you, then basically, Omegaverse, aka ABO, is an AU or alternate universe in which everybody in the world is split into 3 different categories, also called secondary genders, subtypes, or ranks. Those 3 categories are alphas, betas, and omegas, ABO, each with their own biologies and societal roles. Typically, alphas are the strong, tough enforcers or protectors, betas are the worker bees and your average Joe, as close as what you're gonna get to a normal person in this universe, and omegas are the nurturers and rear the next generation. This genre was inspired by this defunct wolf hierarchy system. It came about in the supernatural fandom through the J2 pairing by blending together a whole bunch of other tropes like Star Trek's Pon farr and animal mating cycles. All you really gotta know nowadays is that alphas and omegas are usually the ones being paired up, and it's primarily a smut-filled genre and a way to justify rocking up your favorite male characters, but it is a cool world to explore in regards to breaking down the societal structures. Both is good. Got it? Cool. Bringing the cake. The cake is not a lie. I hope you guys are aware that I will be making as many cake jokes as possible in this video. So Cakeverse was created by Korean Twitter user Rune Communicat as a spin-off of Omegaverse, but with some fun, new, tasty tweaks. Cakeverse works in a similar way to Omegaverse in that everybody in the world is split into 3 different categories, each with their own different biology. But this time, the categories are forks, cakes, and normals, or normies. Forks, who are akin to alphas, live the entirety of their lives with the inability to taste anything.
Where's the flavor? Where's the flavor in this?
Anything except for cakes, and I'm not talking about the delicious desserts here. Well, I guess they are dessert to the forks, because, well, you know.
What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean?
The only things that a fork can taste in this world, and smell is usually lumped in there too, so the only things that a fork can smell and taste in this world are the flesh and fluids of a cake. Depending on the story and the author and the way they want to swing it, sometimes forks are born with a lack of taste, and sometimes they lose it as they grow up, like when they go through puberty. Cakes, who are akin to omegas, are pretty much normal people and live their lives as such, except for one crucial detail. They taste amazing, but only to forks.
Goodness, I taste delicious.
So if like a random normal guy decided to try to eat a cake one day, they'd be like, all right, this tastes like people meat, which allegedly tastes like pork. The more you know. Add that to your fanfics. And cakes do not know and are unable to know and will not know they fall under the cake category until they come across a fork. A common scenario that comes up in Cakeverse is during the couple's first kiss, if the fork wasn't able to tell if someone was a cake before, like if they weren't able to smell them, they realize it when they taste the cake's lips during the kiss. And the cake realizes they're a cake when the fork either starts going feral or if they're straight up like, holy sh**, you taste delicious, you're a cake. Every cake is also said to have a different taste or flavor, like chocolate, vanilla, caramel, cinnamon, strawberry. I wonder if there's a cheesecake. It's just a cake person, but they're really sappy and cheesy. Now, since forks can't taste anything but cakes, you can see where this very well might go. The fork will be uncontrollably consumed by a desire to consume the cake. Everything about the cake is irresistible and tempting to them, and many cakes, as a result, meet an untimely end or get kidnapped or taken away and go missing well before their time. So if you're a cake in the world, you gotta watch your back because the forks can sniff you out. But the thing is, again, you have no idea that you're a cake. You don't know who's a normal and who's a cake. The only people who know who they are and what their standing is are forks. And if you're a fork, unless you're really good at faking eating, like, ooh, I love this lasagna, it tastes so sweet and syrupy and spicy, it's very likely that the people around you will know you're a fork and you'll be officially labeled as one. And as a result, many forks end up being ostracized from society because they're deemed potential murderers or cannibals, even if they've never met a cake before. This could end up leading to a lot of witch hunts as well, like, oh, I've heard that so-and-so is a fork. Are you sure? How do you know? Who told you? There is a lot of angst potential here. For the cakes, obviously, because you're constantly at risk of being hunted down for something you're not even aware of, and for the forks because you're at the mercy of your biology. You can't control what you are. You were born this way, and then you're hit with something uncontrollable and you lose yourself. And just for clarification's sake, when I say consume and like eat cakes, it doesn't always mean like cannibal style, cut them up like Hannibal. Because all parts of a cake taste like cake, you could be like drinking their blood or licking up their saliva or tears. But yeah, cannibalism is very much present in this genre. Oh yeah, then there's the normals or the normies who are just ordinary people, no succulent spongy flesh or the desire to eat it with them. I've occasionally heard them referred to as plates, which is really funny, but the OG author didn't coin that term, so it's more of like a later progression in Cakeverse. I get mad Twilight Edward Bella vibes with Cakeverse.
I'm the world's most dangerous predator.
There's this predator-prey dynamic that's present in a lot of different romantic tropes like vampires and werewolves, but the author has said that there's no such thing as a fated cake or fated fork. No soulmate adjacent stuff. There's no destined strawberry shortcake you're meant to devour. Forks are forks and cakes are cakes. If a fork eats enough cakes, be it actually consuming them or like kind of at them a bit, they could develop preferences like, oh yes, I prefer cakes with the more nutty, earthy flavor to them versus the fruitier floral notes that other cakes carry. Looking at the fics tagged with Cakeverse on AO3, I was expecting a lot more. And same thing with Wattpad and Tumblr. Oh my god, there's a lot of Cakeverse Detroit Become Human on here. Plenty of K-pop, Haikyuu, Danmei, I could see that. And almost all of them are explicit as well. Oh, it's eat you out to a whole new level. However, where Cakeverse really shines and really got popular is actually in the world of Japanese manga and doujin. These are some of the more well-known Cakeverse manga. One that's pretty popular is called Chitasaki Karakoi, also known as Love from the Tip of the Tongue. It even got its own mini anime adaptation on YouTube, and there's plenty of fan-made Cakeverse doujinshi floating around as well. So yeah, even though this idea was created by a Korean Twitter user, Japanese fans ate it up literally and ran with it. Now, I know you probably have a whole lot of questions and or concerns regarding Cakeverse, and the creator of it has actually conducted a whole bunch of Q&As, so let's go through those together. I'm so sorry, I have to mention that throughout this entire video, all my mind's been jumping to are Cake Boss memes, which has been making this entire experience way funnier than it should be.
Who wants to dig into some cake?
Something that stands out to me here are not all forks are criminals, but for all cakes, forks are a sin. A fork can destroy your daily life, but a cake can destroy your entire life. And on one hand, I'm like, okay, well, I mean, if you're a cake and a fork decides to, like, eat you entirely, then, I mean, that's your entire life gone down the drain, down the garbage disposal. But I can still see what the creator means by this, in that if you're a fork and suddenly a cake walks by and you get a whiff of them, the trajectory of your life is changed forever. Like, all you want is that cake.
You're like my own personal brand of heroin.
And if you're a cake and are like, oh my god, I'm getting devoured by this fork, and this fork is like, you know, doing not cannibalism adjacent things to you, but like still eating you, if you know what that makes sense, then yeah, it's like, oh, you're playing with this person who could very well kill you in an instant and eat you entirely, but you're into it. And that's a little, you know, juicy, sinful.
So the lion fell in love with the lamb.
What a stupid lamb.
You sick, masochistic lion.
Now, why forks and cakes, first of all? Well, apparently the creator just really likes cake. Really. Why is the name like that? Why is it called Cakeverse? The answer? It's cute. Why is it called Cakeverse and not Forkverse? The answer, in the beginning, there was cake. The first thing I thought of was cake. If there was no cake, there was no fork. How did you come up with this crazy idea? The creator answered, my first kiss tasted like lemon candy, and the nape of my neck smelled like peppermint candy. They were thinking, you're so sweet, your scent makes me crazy. My sweet honey sugar floured 2 spoons preheat the oven. Yeah, this translator's a bit whack, sorry guys. I'm a person who is a bit obsessed with things like this. In foreign countries, the title for a lover is sugar or honey or sweetie, so I really wanted to make it sugar, honey, sweet, romantic. It's true, we do say things like, oh, you're so cute I could eat you up, or I want to take a bite out of you. You look juicy, she ate. Does the fork have to eat the cake? So if a fork wants to pursue a mutually consensual relationship with the cake, and the cake's like, oh, I love you, I'll let you lap at my tears and drink my blood on occasion. The creator answered, if I were to raise a chicken, I could eat it raw, I could have a chicken party, I could make a dish out of it, but it doesn't mean I have to eat it. I can live with it without eating it. If it were me, I would eat it. I wouldn't want to kill him, but if I can't stand it, I can get another chicken from outside and fry it, although it may be cumbersome and annoying. Or I could give it to my child. He probably wouldn't like it very much. I think the fork cake combination will be more efficient than the fork combination. Damn, so I can't hunt down cakes with my love? I'm also a picky eater. I'm a heretic who orders chicken and only eats the chicken legs and throws them away. Damn, imagine if a fork hunted down a cake just to like snip off their fingers and I'm like, satisfied. I don't need the rest of you, you can go. I don't understand Fork's feelings. The creator answered, I'm living my life eating tasteless food because I'm on a diet, but it feels like freshly fried chicken is walking in front of my eyes. The hungrier I am and the longer I don't taste the taste, the more tempting it will be. Because society's gaze is tying forks to criminals, ironically, even if a fork commits a crime, it is tolerated without major repercussions because they say, they knew it'd be like that. It's a fork. What did you expect? They must have committed the crime because they're a fork. Isn't it so good to be conflicted between love and appetite? I feel like I'm going crazy because I want to chew even just one bite and swallow it, but if I eat it like that, I'll never see it again. So my eyes are filled with tears, licking. Yeah, I mean, for a fork, you want to devour a cake in its entirety because it's so delicious, but if you do that, there's not gonna be any more of that cake. You gotta find a way to make it sustainable and savor it. What if a fork doesn't like sweets? Because cakes as we know them in this world are sweet desserts. The creator answered, I was so obsessed with sweets that I didn't even consider it. I apologize to all the forks who hate sweets in my worldview. I didn't think anything of it until yesterday, but I felt so bad because I thought what would happen if a fork suddenly wanted to eat pizza? I'm sorry, I can't even eat it. So I thought about a cake that tastes a little like a hamburger, a cake that tastes like pizza, etc. The cake is said to have a taste that you can find delicious even if you don't like sweet things. I also don't like bitter things, but I like the smell of coffee. So I eat coffee milk with tears in my eyes. It's okay to make something like a ham-flavored cake by putting your own spin on Cakeverse if you want to. Each cake tastes different. If you want to look for a cake that tastes like toast sprinkled with sugar, you might be able to find it. Same thing if you want a hamburger cake. If the cake smells like shampoo, would you want to eat it? The creator answered, a cake with herbal medicine scented shampoo flavor would make you feel healthier. Cake essential self-defense mechanism. But basically the scent of the cake is felt very strongly by the fork. In a world without color, if the one thing you can see is red, it'll stand out. Again, it's ultimately up to the fork. Some forks may not be down to eat a cake that tastes like Herbal Essence's ultra volumizing shampoo, and some forks are down for it. What if a fork is allergic to dairy products? Well, humans aren't dairy products, right? If you're allergic to human flesh, that can't be helped. It's a bit sad. That raises a lot more questions, actually. Can't a cake withstand a fork, so can't like a cake fight back against a fork? The creator responded, if a hungry lion was passing by alone and attacked by a herbivore, if it was a rhino, they would be killed. If a fork kidnapped a cake, but then the fork was hit hard by the cake, or the fork grew old, then it could lead to an unexpected ending. Basically, the fork says, oh, that one, I can't beat it, and gives up. In most cases, forks can get caught if they throw their minds around, but there are just as many cases where the cake is eaten. If the cake is really too strong, or if you hit it with a weak fork that hurts you, or something like that, it doesn't work. I feel sorry for the cake. Me too. How did cakes and forks not become extinct? The answer? Because it's not something specific. It's just that a fork or a cake can be born to ordinary parents, or a cake could be born to fork parents, or a fork could be born to cake parents. It's entirely randomized. At least forks appear at a certain age, so there is some distinction for them. All you have to do is register your fork and manage it to some degree on an ongoing basis. Thanks to this, the lives of forks and cakes have become somewhat richer in developed countries, but that does not mean there is no discrimination. Will the fork's teeth not fall off? The answer, basically the fork is made to be able to crush the cake better. The flesh or fluids of a cake will melt in the mouth of a fork more fluffily, but it doesn't melt away like cotton candy in water. There's still some shape to it. I like all these technical questions. People are asking the important stuff. If the entire body of a cake is sweet, does that mean the shit of a cake is also sweet? I'm asking the big questions here. They answered that because it's thrown away from the body, like it's a byproduct of the body, it's not part of the body. No. Beef is delicious, cow milk is delicious, and cow blood is delicious, but cow excrement, that doesn't taste good. If the body throws it away, why eat it? And then of course someone had to add on to that saying, but don't you also throw away saliva and tears? And the creator responded, well, saliva is for swallowing and tears are for covering the surface of the eye to keep it moist unless you're sad. So since they're made for certain purposes that aren't meant to be thrown away, like is, then those are fine. Does a cake's nails and hair also taste sweet? To which the creator responded, somewhat of a sweet taste, but that doesn't mean it's delicious, that you have to swallow it. A single piece probably won't taste very good. So if you eat it with other parts, it's okay, but by itself, maybe not as tasty. But she also said that you could do whatever you want with this AU, so if you want your fork to eat only your cake's hair and nails, just like the Cullens only drink animal blood like a fork vegetarian, then by all means, let them eat cake. Or rather, don't let them eat cake. Can there be someone who's both a cake and a fork? Did tigers and lions evolve knowing that they could produce ligers? I've never really thought about such children, but since the possibility is always open, I think there's a good chance that such a mutation will emerge. Should we call this guy open mouth? I want to give it a name similar to tableware or snack, but there are things that are both tableware and snacks, like candy straw? Sugar glass? I think the probability of it eating its own body is low. Chickens don't eat their own bodies just because they're delicious. It hurts and they'll be fully aware that it's their own body. Above all, in that case, they'll be aware of it with a fork. At the same time, you'll feel the sweet taste of your cheeks and saliva. Since you're always forced to eat, you probably don't have a big obsession with the taste, right? In fact, you might become insensitive to sweet tastes. Okay, so if you're like a cake-fork hybrid, you can still taste and smell how delicious you are, but because you're you, and it's painful if you do try to eat yourself, and you are tasting it all the time, you're kind of like desensitized to it. And so as a result, if you walk by other cakes, you might be like, oh, there's a cake. I don't feel that all-consuming need to devour them because I'm used to it. Habituation, as it were. But there still is the possibility of eating yourself. Moreover, even if you get used to the taste of your cheek or saliva, the taste of your blood or your flesh will still be new. Even though you know it's your own body, you will be in ecstasy. It wouldn't be a bad idea to forget the pain and mindlessly disappear into my own body. Self-cooking might be difficult, but, and more than anything, I like the idea of eating oneself. Even though I live the life of a fork, so if you're a cake-fork hybrid, you're still kind of living like a fork, there is the possibility of being threatened by a fork because you still taste and smell like cake. And I can eat cake anytime because you can still smell other cakes, but I think it's very sexy that it's my own body. Survival, instinct, and desire, how does it feel to be constantly bumping into each other? Whew. If there are cake-fork hybrid kids like this, it might be passed down as something similar to an urban legend. If they die on their own, there will be no traces left, and the DNA left on their bodies will be theirs, so it will be perfect to make somewhat of a lore out of it. Reading through all of this and thinking about Cakeverse conceptually deeper, it keeps bringing me back to that whole thing about cannibalism being a metaphor for love. Like, when you look at this as just people eating each other or eating each other's bodily fluids, it's like, what the f***? But when you think about it less literally and more symbolically and are like, okay, why does this appeal to people? What are people thinking when they read this? It's the idea of becoming so close to someone, wanting to be near them and not let a single part of them go to waste, that you want to consume them wholly. It's psychological yearning, it's emotional hunger, it's visceral, messy, greedy, raw, all in all, human, the dark part of love that we don't often acknowledge. Can it be unhealthy? Yeah. Toxic? Certainly. But it's one of those things where when you're reading about it and you're kind of big braining it and are looking at the big picture of it all, you're like, holy f***, and you can't look away. At least that's how I see it, and I'm sure some people out there are like, I don't know, I just like seeing people eat each other. It's like, alright, I mean, to each their own. It's still a bit of a mental hurdle for me to get over. Like, Tokyo Ghoul was the extent of people eating for me, and even that was pushing it. But what are your thoughts on Cakeverse? If you were a cake, what do you think you'd taste like? I want to be one of those like fancy fruit yogurt cakes from Paris Baguette or 85 Degree. If you were a fork on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you feel? There's also a Cakeverse alignment quiz that I linked in the description if you wanted to see what you truly are on the inside, whether you're made of metal or flour, and I got spork, which I guess is a normal person aspiring to be a fork, but they're not actually one, they're kind of just cosplaying as one. It was also the least common option to get, with fork being the most common, so look at me being a special little snowflake, a special little cannibal's utensil. Besides Cakeverse, there's other cousins of Omegaverse like Iceverse. If you want videos on that and the other family variants, then please let me know. And if there's any other fanfic tropes or AUs you'd like to see videos on, like Star Tier Disease, or the history of the coffee shop AU, or why Pacific Rim AUs are the superior AU, and they're so fantastic and I wish there was more of them in the world. Please, I want more Pacific Rim AUs, they're amazing. Then I'd be happy to oblige as well. And as always, if you'd like to see more fandom and fan culture-esque videos from yours truly, then feel free to subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, lovely viewer, and I will see you next time. Bye.
안녕.